supposedly is also in bed with the government. And therefore, the common Mwananchi is left with the questions of whom and who do we have? Who can fight for our rights, our freedoms? Like I said, 6 decades down the line, this is not a conversation we should be having. Why do we live in our own nations and you have to walk around, looking back, over your shoulders because you are afraid that anytime you could be abducted simply because you are exercising constitutional right enshrined in the Constitution. And I don't know whether we should suspend the Constitution altogether, or if not, then we should be told how then does public participation, and when we voice out our concerns, how do they affect and impact the decision-making processes in government? Because public participation is one of those principles that ensures that there is transparency and the people hold their government of the day accountable. So mimi mahali tumefikia sasa, I think the international community has seen, is seeing. Nilikuwa nafikiria ni kama hii kuongea kwetu hapa kwa space ni kama Ruto hasikiangi na ni kama hata hana shughuli. But I came to realize it is actually working. If you've seen the silhouettes that have been made about must go, I think he has employed some of his bloggers to do pro-government silhouettes. And the fact that we have a presidency that keeps on, anytime the people raise concerns against his governance, he has to get a rejoinder. And I'm like, how petty is our presidency? Haezi nyamaza, lazima ajibu kila kitu yenye ameambiwa. And for me, it is a sorry and sad state of affairs. And in part, we have ourselves to blame because this government didn't find itself there. Over 7 million people put this government there. So maybe, if anything, we should learn. We should learn now and not forget so that we don't make the same mistakes in future. So thank you. I yield the mic.
Thank you for that. That submission gets us. Na leo watu wanamaliza on the dot. On the dot.
You are listening to Home Run with Pipi. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Na jom nangoje ifike saa 2 mwanze kurequest microphone. Yone Western Gloria Redemptor kila mtu hapa. Yeah. Show inaisha saa 3 guys. Now nimewa mark. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in here on Home Run with Pipi, of course, your social conversation spaces. And we are just catching up on the goings on in our country. And nobody is even is talking about how the government came out with a whole list of achievements, including the number of learners these pastors are trying to make them feel useless. Guys, what? There was like, the Catholic Church should be, these bishops should know that there are 7 million learners who are going to be affected by your comments. You guys, how all these learners you are willing to hurt? You heartless man. You're not even married. That's why. They almost say that, of course. I can't put it past them. Somebody somewhere in the office even suggested it. If you can be a blogger for these people, you can definitely suggest something like that. Anyway, I have KD on the mic. How are you doing, KD?
Hey, what's up, P? How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, thanks for the space, and I want to give you a challenge. You do a very good job, and I think you have a big outreach. One thing I would just request is, in some of such spaces, if you can maybe stretch your hand with the links and connects you have, try as much as you can, see if you can get one of these clergies on board. It would shed so much light to most people, because I'm Catholic myself, so I'm speaking out of something I'm so much aware of. And not like I'm very righteous. I have so many sins, maybe even more than most of you. But the one thing I have come to learn is the disconnect we have as a society with our spiritual being. And we get to see how much spirituality is so important in a nation. But unfortunately, just like in any other departments and whatever's in life, the one thing we lack is knowledge. So, for instance, there has been so many allegations, and myself, I have a few priests who I have a one-on with, and we're just getting to know what happened yesterday, but have not been aware of what has been happening before it got to yesterday. Such that some people even going ahead and saying it's because they never got their money because of the institutions and stuff and stuff and stuff. That's why they decided to do what, to open their mouths and talk. But Kenya has 9 million Catholics, and these leaders have been trying to get on a consensus, rather an agreement with the government. But they always play that dog ball. You know, when you almost getting to an agreement, the ball is thrown on another side, and then you have to run for the ball. I think it's Academia who said he's Christian as well, and we are the church, we are the people. The only thing is we forget so fast. And I say this because if I remember very well, a few months ago we had a tagline, a hashtag we were pushing, Occupy Churches. And when this happened, every one of these leaders ran away from the church. We sanitized the altars. And then after a few months, what happened? We actually backed out again. What happened? They went back in again. So mine is just that there's so many things we are not informed about. And I would just call upon us to try and think of maybe fact-checking ourselves and getting to be active in all these areas that make up a society, because society is just not you and me or the government or every other thing, you know, education, hospitals, roads, the Adani deal and all these things that affect us. Why is it that this time round there's so many people who have spoken, people of the color who've spoken, but there has not been any such of an a reaction? But why is it that this particular whatever spoken, everything just seems to be, like it's an inspection that is being, or an audit that is being done eventually? So mine is just to ask us, like the people responsible, the way you started off by saying, those who voted for this government. When I actually say choices have consequences, this is some of the things that we have to face, because when we elect leaders, we need to think of what is in it for us and what will happen in the next 5 years. Not just think of he's my favorite blogger or space holder, without knowing that eventually he'll start acting funny at the end, which calls for knowledge and interest in getting to be a little bit responsible in terms of what is used to run operations and the choices that are going to be, the aftermath that is going to come out of the choices that I have made. I hope that makes a little sense. Thanks. And I'll let you run the show as you always have. Thanks.
Thank you, KD. Of course, I'm a Catholic as well by birth. Nimesoma pia. Actually, the very right Reverend Philip Anyolo is the one that confirmed me and gave me the name Francis. Yeah, so when I speak about it, I also speak from my religious standpoint, that my leaders are speaking in that voice. And when I hear people talk about Catholic and eating money, I remember there's a place called Mission in Hispania. So Mission is where they used to have, that is the parish. Yeah, they had a school called St. Anne's. They had a pigsty, a canteen, and of course there was a farm where the people also used to farm there for the priests. And all this money just rotated within the community at some point. So as well, they had like a health center as well. So, guys, the church is also doing a good job. Muhija, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, PPI.
Niko salama?
Just had KD.
Pest nikuwekee kitu. Pest nikuwekee kitu bwana. Usikubali nikule za serikali peke yangu.
Nilikuwa nakwambia ukishapata hizo ukuje huku Western nikuonyesha ranch yako, anze ranch. Kuna mashamba na weather ni mzuri sana. Pia kuna mabibi wako kwa wingi.
Jamani, tulisema mimi taki kwanza.
Usiwaste pesa ya serikali kwa raha Nairobi pipi. Na unaweza kuwa na ranch 30 acres.
Wewe noma sana mzee. Maoni yako siku ya leo ni gani bro?
Yeah, nimesikia KD akiongea. Hata mimi pia I'm speaking from the point of Catholic. I'm a Catholic. So after hiyo 25th August, June, tulikuwa very disappointed wakati tuliona hao bishops wakienda State House. Personally, nilikuwa very disappointed. Na yule ambaye aliniuma sana alikuwa huyo Muheria, because I wasn't expecting him to support whatever was happening at that time. But then we are not even privy to what they talked with the president or what they discussed. But then after that, kukaona ile Occupy churches. So in my diocese, mimi ni wa Kakamega diocese, and my bishop is Joseph Obanyi. Akatoa circular, akasema anataka kukutana na Gen Z na millennials. But sikuwa na time ya kwenda hiyo mkutano. Mara ya kwanza ilikuwa imepangwa ikuwe hapa tu town. But then they realized there were people who were planning to disrupt the meeting na ingekuwa chaotic. So I moved to some other place. But then vijana walienda and they were open. Wakaambia bishop their views, and I think he was shocked. Even the priests were shocked. Because maybe I thought he was expecting to whip them. Ama they choose a narrative and you go supportive of the church and the government. But then unfortunately for them, they are very candid. Like wakamwambia everything. Hadi zile ills ambazo ziko kwa church, in my own church, na all those things. Hata misbehavior priests walimwambia everything. So at the end of the day, alikuwa very disappointed, very angry. But I think he listened. Because above from that point, niliona there were some changes across the church, especially for the local church. Personally, in our local church, in our parish, our priest doesn't allow politicians to come over. Hata tu kufanya harambee, it's not allowed. I can't even remember any time tulikuwa na politician nakuja church kufanya fundraising. They just come kama wale wenye kama baraza. Our governor is a Catholic, so when he comes to church anapewa tu time ya kuongea, then anaambiwa after that ushasalamiwa Kristo. If you want to hold any meeting or political, just go with them outside, ama muende mpange another day, another forum, muende mfanyie huko siasa zenu. So our parish mambo imekuwa poa. But I think based on what I heard yesterday from the bishops, I think they heard what the young people are saying. I think walifika time wakarealize they are losing a very important cohort from the church because they were losing it. Vijana walikuwa wameanza kutoka kanisani, they don't come. Walikuwa wameanza kuresist, walikuwa wana oppose openly. At first walikuwa wanaona kama ni rebellion of some sort, but then I think they have realized with the time kwamba these young guys are very serious. They know what they want, and they are going to do everything. And for the church to survive, you must have young people in the church. So I appreciate vile wamekuja wameongea, but I feel maybe ingekuwa earlier. Watu wengi wamesema ingekuwa earlier. I share in the same sentiments, ingekuwa earlier. Can you imagine that time after 25th, alafu na hizi abductions zote zimekuwa zikiendelea? Just a word from the bishops. Mnaona yenye wameongea tu jana imeleta fracas kwa government. Can you just imagine wangekuja that time na waseme things are not right. like abductions zinaendelea, corruption ni iko, things are not working. Just a single statement. But I think for somebody, a few of them have been speaking, though haijakuwa ikikuwa picked on the media. But I'm happy ile ya jana ilikuwa picked na ime-raise a lot of interest Kenyans na government. So my only wish ni kwamba we will see more of them coming, more of those statements. They always hold water. For us, for us Catholics, or those of us who are Catholics, when bishops issue those circulars, you may not agree with them, but you always sit down and reflect. Una reflect, unajiuliza mnaambiwa nini, what are they saying? The same thing happened na ile referendum. You know what happened before the constitution, ile Ruto alikuwa na support. I think the award ilimsaidia huyo Ruto. And that's why I realized the value of the church na I ride on it until 2022 akakuwa president. And now he's angry because he knows if he loses that power ama that support, he is nobody. So I think the church has spoken, we support the church, but then we just implore the church to be on the right side. Waendelee kuongea, waendelee kutoa statements. Na kuna mtu amesema hapa hajui vile church zikashiriki hiyo 21st. PP optics ziko very important. Naweza nikakupatia example, hiyo 21st tumegather somewhere and then kuna pastor hapo ama kuna bishop hapo amekuja ameambia watu nyamazeni, amesoma neno hapo na ameomba na akasema haya tuanze march. That thing is powerful. It has sent a very powerful message. Watu watakuwa I think people in government watakuwa unsettled. So we are quick always, like personally nikasema we are always quick kujudge kanisa, but then we should also find ways ya involve your kanisa in whatever we are doing, kwa sababu Kenya Zuyana, we stand on Christian values. We can't run away from that. And then the role of the church will always be a priority for anything that we do in Kenya. But then we have to find ways maybe as nikasema kuinject. In case kanisa isahau their role, we have to remind them always. We remind them always in our own respective ways. Na watakuja wakikuwa on board. Once we win over the church, we have won more than 50% of Kenya. And I think the current government will not survive once we have the church on our side. So let me learn from there, people. Thank you.
Asante sana Muhija kutoka pale maeneo ya acha tusije kusema natoka wapi mzee. Tunajua tu Mr. and Gen Z from Kilalaishwa. Bro. Victor, how are you doing?
Niaje pipi?
Poa sana mzee.
Umeoa?
Si tulisema hiyo story kwamba nime sign off kwamba mimi mambo ya kwa msiniweke kwa mix. I like my peace.
Basi unapiga nduru ya chief kwa nini kama hujaoa? Kwani you'll get pregnant?
Sasa mzee. Siko na relatives. My relatives si wataoa. I have nephews.
Are you employed?
With who? By who?
Sasa basi housing levy, chief, NSSF, machozi ni ya nini kama hizo? Are you a blogger?
Unajua hivyo ndo watu huanza alafu wanasemekana wamelipwa.
15% tax ya mbadi unalialia, unapiga nduru na hata utakuwa unailipa. Shida iko wapi? So
nitakuwa nalipa 15% ya online income. Nitakuwa nalipa 15% online income. What are you saying bwana?
What are you saying? Utakuwa unalipa online 15% kwa sababu Daido alishasema unalipwa. Tunataka utugawie kidogo. Sisi tumekuwa ma customer hapa since July last year bwana. Unakula tu peke yako. Sisi unatuambia tu ati nitaweka kwa maombi. Kumbe wewe huko nyuma unatembelea. Pipi bwana. Kwanza nitaenda kwa M-Pesa statement nianze kutuma receipt basi. Anyway, to the point today, to the point of the events that are happening in the country, I think we are at a very crucial moment. Na mimi, now I know that WSR is a one-term president. If you guys decide to make him a second-term president, msikuje kulia hapa. In fact, kama uko hapa na unasikia hii statement, lazima ukuwe na 10 or 20 people next to you who you know will vote this government out. But we are not only voting this government out. We must make sure that the next government coming in understands their mandate. Kwa sababu saizi we have a caliber of senators and members of parliament who think their role is to support the president, who think their role is to represent the president in parliament. But that is not their role. Their role is to listen to what the people are saying and then tell the president that no, this is not going to happen. I mean, public universities are on strike. But yesterday you saw the Minister of Education coming out with a very stupid statement that tumefanya hii na hii na hii na hii na hii. And I keep saying this. If what you are doing is working, you don't need to report it. Kenyans will tell you. Sarah Ndidi Nyoro alisema hivyo on one of these budget meetings where he was at one of these big hotels. That we should not be telling Kenyans what we have done. But Kenyans should be telling us that, you know, we can feel what you are doing. We can, yani tunaifeel. Sasa unaona siku hizo wameanza kutupa ma statistics huku. Oh, sijui tumejenga ma classrooms ngapi. And we can start walking through this country and we will show you schools that don't even have classrooms. Children learn under the trees. Yet tunatuambia that tumejenga classrooms. Basi hizo classrooms zimejengwa wapi? Because the first priority should be for those students who are learning under the trees. We are not supposed to be increasing classrooms at Alliance when people in Marsabit Primary School are learning under trees. We should not be expanding classrooms at Kisumu Boys when children in West Pokot, Maralal Primary School, do not even have classrooms. And then you come and tell us that, oh, the economy is working. So your GDP has grown by 5%. My grandmother doesn't care about GDP. She doesn't care about GDP. At inflation, month to month, imerudi chini by it's at 2.7%. Okay, good. But what that simply means is compared to last month, the price of unga is still 2.7% higher. Yeah. We are still paying 2.7% more to acquire, to buy certain food products, certain services, and so on and so forth. So you can't come and tell us that things are working when everybody in this country tells you that things are not working. Yeah. Alafu, the things that are working, you don't even have a good communication team that can communicate with humility and with respect and with dignity to Kenyans. And if what Nyakundi had posted on his Twitter timeline, where the government bloggers wanapigana, until even one of them, who was a former journalist who would read primetime news, na tulikaa chini kwa masebule zetu na tunamsikiza, anasema that we resort to propaganda. That if we cannot win the propaganda war, if we cannot beat them at this media war, then we engage propaganda. Those were the statements of one Mwanaisha Chizuga, deputy government spokesman. Anasema hivyo na mdomo yake. A short statement from the bishops that didn't even last 1 hour has elicited all sorts of things. Mpaka leo hata Sholei anasema that tusiaibishe rais hadharani. Kama Yesu alisulubiwa hadharani na Yesu ni mtoto wa Bwana ambaye tunapiga magoti kila jioni tukimuomba na tukimrudishia shukrani. Kila asubuhi akituamsha tunapiga magoti chini na tunaomba na tunamshukuru. Alisulubiwa hadharani hadi akatemewa mate. Kwani Ruto ni nani hawezi ambiwa ukweli hadharani? Hii God complex tuko nayo about our leadership. Ndio maana hatujawahi make serious steps that we are supposed to make as a country. Wengine sasa wameanza kusema that, oh, where were they during the Uhuru Kenyatta regime? That's not the point. Because the Uhuru Kenyatta regime is no longer in power. It's now your regime that is in power. Alafu, what I'm really happy about is you can see that when they just think that things are dying down. Kwa sababu vile ilianza na mambo ya Gen Z, kuna wasaliti walienda wakaingia, wengine wakaenda wakakula State House, blah blah, watu wakafikiria inaisha. Just when you think inaisha, Kibet Bull pia ametoka na zake sasa. Sasa hata nasikia zinaanza kuwa ni video, zitaanza kuwa video sasa. Na Kibet pia atapanda tu, tukiona kama yeye anachoka utastuka tu mwingine pia ametokelezea. Na hiyo ndio momentum that we need until 2027. But hata tukielekea 2027, jameni, anyone mwenye mawahi kuwa kwa kitu inaitwa KANU ama mawahi kuwa associated na kitu inaitwa KANU, tafadhali, whether ni MCA, whether ni MP, whether ni governor, peleka nyumbani. Botswana have shown us how to do it. Mauritius have shown us how to do it. The United States just recently showed you how to do it. Yeah? And you can look at all other countries that are voting around the world, the way they are kicking incumbents in the balls and saying we are tired of all this nonsense. That is what we need to do. Hiyo ndo mpangilio lazima tukue nayo. Hiyo yani tujitayarishe kabisa. So that ikifika hiyo siku unapiga kura, tunaenda tunakula lunch, tunarudi, hata sasa kama ni tunachoma mahindi tukipika chai hapo hivyo nje ya polling stations tunangojea results. And if each one of us takes that responsibility, na hata tukizungumza na watu, we should not force them to see our point of view, but we should speak to their realities. Hiyo ndio kitu siku hizi nimepata inafanya kazi vizuri sana. Speak to people's realities. Usimwambie kitu unafikiria. Kwa sababu ukimwambia kitu unafikiria atakuona au labda amelipwa kuja niambie hivi. Just speak to their realities. How are you experiencing life? Watoto wanaenda shule vizuri? Umemaliza school fees? Hii mwaka ni nini umejinunulia hata ya maana apart from kulipa bills? Those realities, speak to them. And then tie that to tuko hapa kwa sababu ya bad governance. Yeah, tuko hapa kwa sababu ya bad governance, and that's the truth. Na hii serikali wali promise A, B, C, D. Mnakumbuka hata wamama wakiambiwa watapata sijui free diapers after giving birth, uko na free diaper supply for 2 months. Ile gas ya 6 kg nilisikia in 2 months itakuwa 600 shillings, sijui 700 shillings. Sijui by this year January ingefaa tuanze kupata matibabu bure. Is anybody getting matibabu bure hapa? Hakuna mtu anapata matibabu bure hapa. In fact, even the shape has made things worse. Not that it's a bad thing. Maybe it's a very good thing, but it's just how it's implemented. Iko na haraka and people are quick to make deals. People are quick to make deals. So document all these things in every day. Document these things and let us speak about our realities every day. Ile bunge ya wananchi yenye kina Nuru Okanga na ule anaitwa nani ule jamaa sijui namba 1 ama sijui whatever. These are the things that tupeleke ground kila mahali. And I hear that in certain spaces these things are happening. Hata kama sisi tunafanya yetu hapa mtandaoni, kwa ground unasikia pia kuna watu wanaongea vitu zao. But me, I keep saying grassroots, that is where this thing is won or lost. Si mnaona venye hata tukitumia tu the American election for instance, you see the way the Democrats were concentrating on urban areas, urbanites. Maze urbanites hawapigi kura. They would rather sit on their sofas than waende wapige kura. Hiyo laini ni refu, mvua inanyesha. Mashinani, watu wanapanga laini because they feel it's like their birthright to do this. Yeah? Huko ndio sasa inafaa tushike doria kabisa. Tufunzane, tusikizane, tuongee, tukue kwa level moja. Whether umesoma sana ama hujasoma sana, tukiongelea mambo ya Kenya, tuko kwa level moja. We learn from each other. Then I'm telling you, we will make a step. Nikimalizia, Catholic Church wazidi kuinject. Sasa tunangojea SDA, tunangojea PCA, tunangojea Anglican na AIC. Pia watokelezee waseme za kwao. Because once alafu na imams, ile muhuri, pia wakikuja waseme zao. Sasa nashangaa hii serikali ni wapi watashika. Because truth be said, leo nimesoma report fulani that Portugal has been experiencing brain drain from young people. Young people are leaving Portugal. They are coming to the northern states like Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, because of better opportunities in those places. It's not that in Portugal there are no better opportunities. There are still very good opportunities, Apple. But because incomes in Portugal are lower compared to these other countries, young people are flooding those other countries. So you know what the state has done? They are considering 100% income tax exemption on young people of a certain age range. Tuseme ukiwa between 25 and 30, unaambiwa hizo miaka tano hautalipa tax, income tax. Utalipa taxes zingine kama VAT, maybe utalipa property tax, whatever, but income tax hautalipa. And income tax is usually the biggest component of most taxes that we pay. So they're considering doing that so that they can retain these people in the country so that they can build our economy. Our Minister of Labor anabeba report ati 10,000 Kenyans wamepelekwa Gulf. Na hiyo ndio wana discuss kwa cabinet memo, and then they feel very proud to actually tell us that tumepeleka 10,000 Kenyans in the Gulf. When we know what is happening in the Gulf. We know what is happening in the Gulf. Si tunaona wale wasichana wetu venye wanafanywa. Na tunajua wengi ya wale watu wanaenda huko, they are either unskilled or semi-skilled people. Kwa hivyo ni kama wanaenda huko na half a right.
1 minute, Victor.
Yes, yet we can boast of that tumepeleka watu 10,000 kufanya kazi sijui ni Oman ama sijui ni Qatar ama sijui ni wapi. It's not supposed to be like that. Alfred Mutua is the Minister for Labor for Kenya. He is not the Minister for Labor for outside Kenya. Yeah? Those countries have their own ministries of labor. Wacha hao watu wakuje huku waseme tunataka skilled engineers. Alafu serikali iseme skilled engineers mnaweza enda huko. But tusikuje huku ati tunatafuta housekeepers. Alafu ukifika huko hata hauna hata right. You are mistreated so bad. Unarudi nyumbani hata watu wa kwenu wamekusahau kwa sababu ya majeraha na wounds zenye uko nazo. And those who don't make it back in caskets. Yeah? Hiyo ndio situation tuko ndani. So mimi ndio ni kuwahimiza tuzidi kufinya. This is our country. Na tusikuwe na uoga. Because good countries are built on such important social discussions. Asante pipi.
Haya basi, mmesikia venye mambo yako. Thanks so much, Victor, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Home Run with the PP. Wow.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Welcome to Home Run with PP.
Tuned into Home Run with PP, ladies and gentlemen. This each and every day from 4 p.m. all the way to 9 p.m. East African time. I hope you had a great week. As we are coming to the close of the week, I'm just hearing your opinion on this town hall here on Home Run. And I see the Real Joe is here. I'm going to go to listen to Real Joe, Redemptor, then Ivan we said as well, in that order. The Real Joe, how are you doing?
Peter ni aje?
Niko poa sana. Labda wewe.
Nimesikia wewe ni NIS siku hizi.
Bana, pesa ndo sijaona ikiingia ama payroll number ndo sijatumia. But nikiget nitakushow.
Qualifications zako NIS ni gani? Hiyo ndo nataka kujua juu. Sasa hii maneno sasa ni kama sielewi.
Kwanza mpaka ukuwe na show yenye unaitisha tipja, hiyo nayo mpaka ikuwe important. Because naona hiyo ndo nikani waliangalia sana wakinipatia.
Anyway, Pipita, I think hata kuna time nilisikia Redemptor pia alikuwa NIS, but atatuambia alikuwa recruited aje. But I think at the end of the day, saa zingine we just lose sense in what we are doing sometimes, because intolerance yenye imekuwa I don't know whether sometimes to say movement ama nini, but the intolerance that we've had ni ujinga. People just come up with unqualified information and like unverified information, and they just want to make it the in thing. But those are some of the things that zinaendelea, and you wonder what is happening, what wanajaribu kufanya. But those are distractors, so we just need to avoid them at all cost. Having said that, the hot topic is the bishops, the Catholic bishops. I think it is important to note that the statement that they gave is very critical, and that's why you're seeing the government firefighting. Much as we might castigate them for not being there, or much as we might want them to do more. Kenyans have been blaming the church for not standing with them and things like that. But I think this statement, for me, I'll just specifically talk about whatever they said. They're just typically calling the government and asking them to do everything that the young people have been saying. The unemployment, the inequality, the lies, the deaths, the abductions, all that we have been calling for day in, day out. And it is important. It adds weight to all this that we're doing. And that's why you're seeing the government is firefighting. But I'm worried about the president himself. I think he needs to tone down, and I think he needs to go for soul searching. Because even at the height of all this, he still goes out and makes a statement and claims and says that where even though we try to correct, we try to call for accountability, we should be factual. It is very absurd for him to say that. I think that is very, very absurd. I mean, is he saying that the bishops are not factual when they say he is lying, or when they say there are killings and abductions? Oh, by the way, maybe because he has been on record before saying that he is not aware of any killings and abductions. So I think maybe he's living in a different country. But that is not the kind of head of state. Imagine that's the head of state of the Democratic Republic of Kenya. You can imagine saying that people need to tone down, or people need to be factual. Yet we can see for ourselves, things are not working. Nothing is working in this country. You know, even those people who are talking numbers, they are not talking, the numbers are not in the favor of government. I don't think there's any number that someone can tell you that is in favor of government. Okay? There's no number that is in favor of this government. Nobody will tell you about those are just PR stunts, and that's what the government has been reduced to. That's what the government has been reduced to. Firefighting. When people say this, they are all over firefighting, releasing. You know, when Kibet started releasing those pictures, Kina Itumbi they tried theirs and it backfired on them badly. You know why? They are doing a paid job of trying to contain Kenyans. Kenyans are doing this out of will. It is very organic. And the Kenyans have time. You know, these Kenyans who are unemployed and are calling out the government for employment, they really have so much time. And when they decide to go against you, they go against you full time. And when they decide to do those memes, the government has lost information war. They don't have it. They have lost it. We need to capitalize on that. But for me, as much as I say we need to capitalize on this, I'm a worried man wherever I sit, because I'm seeing a government that does not actually want to work. Give people basic needs, the education that they are calling for, give it to them. Why are lecturers going on strike for very little amount of money, yet you're going to give Raila Odinga 10 billion to campaign for AUC? What does AUC bring to our economy? How many youths will be employed from that AUC? The 10 billion you're going to spend in campaign. The teachers have never, the agreement between the teachers and the government has never been honored. And it is pesa kidogo, but you want to give, it is absurd. And you look at the priorities of the government and they will tell you things are working. The economy is doing well. The economy is not doing well. Yeah? They will tell you ati now bei ya unga imeshuka chini. Bei ya unga sisi hatutaki ishuke chini. Nani anambia sisi tunataka bei ya unga ishuke chini? No. We want hata kama bei ya unga ifike 600 bob, but Kenyans are able to buy that unga. Kenyans are employed so that they are able to buy that unga. That's not the problem yenye tunafikiria sasa bei ya unga ikienda chini now, that is a poor man's mentality. It doesn't need to come down for you to afford it. Even if it goes up, you still need to be able to afford it. Provide a conducive environment for people to work, for businesses to thrive, for employers to be able to provide more opportunities for employed people. Because the only thing that is happening right now is businesses are closing down. some people are being some businesses are declaring redundancy, and those are things that are happening right in front of us. Ile yao ya unga wanataka tu washikilie, unga imerudi chini, sijui hivi. Hiyo unga ikirudi chini, that's not the economy. Unga is not the economy. The economy will never be unga. That is not even cost of living itself. But that is what has been reduced to the conversation of cost of living. And that's where we have been taken with a government that pretends to be working. They're not working. But they have lost this information war. We need to keep pushing. We need to also be very, very steadfast. I mean, there's a lot of distractions that will go around, but we need to be steadfast and continue pushing. That is what we need to do. At the end of the day, we are all calling for good governance of our country. Whichever way you are doing it, do it, but be genuine in whatever you are doing. But again, be wary of those people who call others NIS. They are the NIS. Hao ndio ma NIS, by the way. They are the ones who are Gaidha ameshikwa mara tatu, pengine amefinywa huko akaambiwa. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. But whenever he wanted us, we called him. We called for his release. We supported him. Sasa yeye mwenye sasa yeye anaita watu NIS, he needs to know that people have supported him and stood by him. And I don't think people will, hata siku moja, hata akishikwa tena kesho, I don't think kuna watu, people will turn their backs on him. Hata wako watu walisema akwe released, even though sometimes he used to be very, very sometimes go so much off. But people unite whenever they are arrested or they are being abducted and things like that. That is what we do as a society. That is what is morally right. But now, when you have the opportunity, unakuja kudistract watu na, those are the distractors that I hate to see on these streets. But also consume information responsibly on these streets. Hakuna mtu mwenye, people, kila mtu akona their own agenda when they are posting, when they are tweeting, when they are talking. So consume information also responsibly. Thank you very much, Pipita, for giving me the mic.
Okay, thank you so much, The Real Joe, for that submission. I see the one and only Redemptor. Habari, my colleague.
Mi niko poa. No, we've come a long way. If people are talking about it, means there's something good you're doing. On this bishop's conversation, I would want those men, those very daring men, wanakuanga na Subaru. Na napatia tu assignment kidogo. Waende wachukue tu bishop moja, wasunde kwa Subaru. Moja tu, walikuwa wangapi hiyo squad? Kwanza moja hata kuwa amevaa hizo marobes. Watu 28 wachukue tu wawili. Wachague tu wawili. Bebe hao, because if you're aiming for critics of government to silence them, that would be a very good thing. That said, the Vatican pretty much has a space in Kenya. The presence of the Catholic Church, not the church, but the seminaries, the convents, the interest of the Catholic Church in Kenya are just shocking. How much land do they own? In fact, I read an article many years ago by one Father Kizito, and he was asking how much land does the Catholic own. So these are shareholders. And so I would even take this conversation a different way. I would ask, Pepita, you've been noticed. How many people do you talk to in a week? These bloggers, we keep saying about 527. I've never understood. If 527 inakuanga ya one post, I mean nakuanga, mtu analipangwa 527 akifanya nini?
Wakipush hizo hashtag, I think.
Post moja ama siku mzima?
Yeah, I guess it's, I've never worked for them, so I don't know, but I think per day. Haikuangi pesa mingi kupush tu hashtag.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm curious for people who hold conversations, because now you're influencers. Whether you're influencing 100 people, you're shaping conversations. You're a newsmaker. Every day you have to think, what is trending? What are we going to discuss? How is it relatable to what is the atmosphere in the country? And so I'm just curious, this regime has enough money to buy anyone. So the bishops, it will be, what's your price? Your price is, oh, Amjalipo mission hospitals, NHIF owes you a few billions, pay those ones. Is it how it's going to work out in the end? Is that how we are going to influence people who are suffering? Because I'm just thinking, Gladys Sholoi to Sholoi, but the boss lady, we saw in kunaitwa aje huko Bomas of Kenya, kwa amebeba ka briefcase. We saw when Rigathi was about to be impeached, and today she has to address the bishops. How strong and powerful are these people that you can that you can address people who command a community of over 10 million Kenyans? You just call a press conference and you tell them, you know, you are bishops for spiritual reasons. You're not here for political reasons. So for me, maybe the next conversation after we react, because sometimes we are very reactionary, we need to find out how we influence. How much influence do we have in our little corners? Because this has shaken people. I think some of you have seen I don't know if it's fake news, the WhatsApp screenshots about them saying, this is just trending news, tomorrow it will not be there. But is it really trending news when we keep having this conversation and saying, now people are saying they're going back to the streets? So I look at the bishop as a difference from the conversation of their church leaders and just change to how many people do they have influence over. Yeah, the figures we are talking, I saw a very conservative number of priests, about 3,000. I think there would be more. Because if we start thinking in those lines, then we are going to be more intentional in how we shape our conversations. Because we are also shaping opinions, we are keeping people informed. And so that's why you see hashtags. A guy who is making silhouettes. And within a very short time, everyone knows about the silhouettes, enough for them to influence. So I'm interested in that conversation. So those who hold conversations, you don't know how much power you have on a daily basis. So I just wish you luck in shaping the conversation in a way that serves your country. And I always say we come to these conversations with baggage, and that's why people will label us, because Pepita sahi umepiga watu nyaunyo wale walichagua serikali. What did they expect? They expected bottom up. I have compassion for them. The people that I actually feel sorry for are the ones who didn't vote for him, because now they are even double orphans. You first 2023 watu wakakula tear gas, wakabeba sufuria, wakaachwa kwa mataa. So how do those people feel? Forget this one, bado wako kwa serikali. So the people who are influencing conversations, for example, when you come and ask, are Kenyans feeling the impact of the money, the economy? The question should be, what is the impact of having 10,000 Kenyans who have so much money they can buy a Bentley? It's called a Bentley. One can buy a Bentley. Alikuwa anauza duvet. Hiyo ndio biashara kubwa sana ashaifanya, alikuwa anauza duvet. I think those are the conversations we need to be very intentional in having. Yes, bishops wamekuja, they have said their piece, they have gone. Those are the conversations that people can relate with in terms of the jargon of economics. Because when I go to spaces of economics, I try, but I can't even stay for long because it becomes very complicated. But if you ask me, let's talk, why does this mama afford this car? That is a relatable conversation. So let's just keep talking about what is happening in our country. I'm glad the bishops have spoken. I have a lot of quarrels with different groups, but I don't like to quarrel with people because maybe Mungu amenena now, finally. They've had a loud voice. Wake up, dress up, and go and address the nation. Yeah, don't go to see the president again. I like it. I really like what's going on. I like when enough people are suffering. Now they can speak up. So, Pipita, kama umetajwa leo in Maneka, umeonekana, and keep doing what you're doing if you've been noticed. In terms of informants, I think we are so connected with the people who report on us, people who pick us up. They live next to us. They're our sisters. They're that lady who is your friend. They're in our WhatsApp groups. So we just have to learn to live with them. Because if this Titanic sinks, tunasink pamoja. So have a good evening. Asanteni.
Thank you so much, Redemptor, for that submission, of course. Yeah, we'll keep on pushing.
This is Home Run with Pipi.
The only thing that keeps me, I think, from even reacting is the fact that Home Run with Pipi, for those who know, has been running since 2023 June. So we do not owe anybody any explanations in terms of what we have been talking. You can go back and listen to the more than 200 recordings of Home Run with Pipi. Just click on hashtag Home Run with Pipi and listen to our conversations. But I see Aving Miseda, habari yako?
How you doing, Mr. Pipi? That was my favorite in ISA.
Yeah, talk to me.
Hello? Alright, hi everyone. My name's Irvin, aka Mr. Average or Gen Z Klelesha. Now, with regards to what the bishop said, okay, I actually did know that a meeting was held about a month ago amongst church leaders, and so I was already aware that there was already something building up to them making a stance on everything. But at the same time, I have to say that the Archbishop did the right thing. You know, you cannot be seen to be sanitizing an oppressive regime or seen to be neutral. As Desmond Tutu once said, as Archbishop Desmond Tutu once said, that if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. And the reason why I like this is because I'm a practicing Christian. I even have a layman's diploma in scripture. And the main motivator when I went to the streets was my Christian belief, because I believe the God I serve is a God of justice, a God of mercy, a God of love. And so when I went there, I went as a Christian, remembering everything that has been taught to me through the scriptures from my parents and my pastors. And even back when Kimani Uchungwa called me and my friends iPhone carrying Gen Zs, one of the first things we did was we helped raise money to donate sanitary pads to a charity in Huruma. And I've never been exposed to poverty like that in my life. You know, I remember on the way there, we were feeling so self-righteous, oh, we've done a good thing. And then when you arrive, the shock of my life was that what we've donated wouldn't even last a month. And then when I came back home, watching the news and seeing all these pastors taking pictures with Ruto, it was heartbreaking. I'm sure most Christians that were on the streets with me were heartbroken. I even told my mom, I'm like, in history, I was taught stories of the Anglican Church fighting against the Atlantic slave trade. I was told stories of Reverend Martin Luther King using the pulpit to fight for social justice. I was told stories of Archbishop Desmond Tutu using the pulpit to fight against apartheid. All these stories were taught to me by a Swedish atheist man. And in my own country, there's no such thing. I'm like, where are the church leaders that are fighting for justice? Where are the church leaders that are fighting for equality? And I told them, like, you just have to look at the statistics on where the moral stance is. I'm like, look at Gen Zs. Despite Gen Zs being the most educated, the statistics also show we consume the least amount of alcohol. We are the least promiscuous. We consume the least amount of porn. So it's not an issue of morality, because the morality is clearly on the side of the Gen Zs, but yet the Gen Zs are not going to church. And it's not the Gen Z's fault. And it's a good thing, because my mom did tell me that you're probably not the only one that went there because you're a Christian. And what should be the right thing to do is find other Christians that were with you in the movement, and also look up and find Christian leaders that have supported you. And that's how I found out about Anglican Bishop Alexander Muge, who, from what I've read, is actually the face of democracy. And he ended up losing his life fighting for democracy in Kenya. And so, as I close, I'd like to say something that one of my favorite pastors of all time once said. And he was a pastor in Nazi Germany. And he said, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So to those of you that are Christians, and if there's any church leader here, I have to leave by saying that the Church of Kenya must stand with the Gen Z to prevent repeating the same mistake pastors made in Nazi Germany. Thank you.
Asante sana, having Miseda for that submission as well. I see the one and only Gloria is here with us. It's long time no here, Gloria. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Peter. I took a health break. Lakini Mungu
I hope you're
ameniokoa.
feeling better now.
I'm very much alive. God is very faithful. So now, on this topic, the Catholic bishops, what I can say is we all know that the church, as we know it, the church as the body of Christ, not necessarily Catholics, but the church, the Christian fraternity, led by the leaders. These are religious leaders, and even ourselves as Christians, that we have failed our country. We all know that a lot of things happened, especially June 25th, when protests began, people died, young people were killed, and abductions continue to happen. Things continue to happen, but the church was quiet. Instead, we even saw some of these leaders rush to State House instead and came out of State House with envelopes instead of calling out these political leaders. So, like Paul, you know, sometimes people get, I don't know, but a Damascus moment sometimes happens, and maybe the Damascus moment is here for the Catholic bishops, that they finally open their eyes. So regardless of for me, regardless of what probably could be pushing them, like it said, because they spoke about monies that have not been remitted to them through these mission hospitals that they run, fine. That's a selfish kind of, you know, something self-centered, self-interest, fine. But then also still points out the fact that Shisha is not working, and that affects all Kenyans. So at the end of the day, I'm hoping that it's truly a Damascus moment, and it's for us, not even them, the bishops and what, it's for us to take advantage of this moment and push things and speak louder online. If we can push for even the other Christian fraternities, the SDAs, but remember, like last time when we were asking for justice for this blogger from Mombasa, people pushed the Muslim fraternity, the sheikhs, to say something. We can still do the same, so that we have all religious leaders from all corners calling out this government. Because the truth is, you know, nothing is working in Kenya. The truth is nothing is working. And I see, again, leaflets. I see, you know, people have started talking about a total shutdown on Thursday. Others are talking about Tuesday. For me, the thing is, much as they're saying, oh, let's mobilize, I don't know, let's, wherever people in the rural areas, let's talk to them. Or people where revolution does not necessarily have to have, like, we have to bring everybody. Because what we are going through, it's affecting everyone. So if there is somebody even at this moment that hasn't realized what we are going through, then the person is not with us. And I don't think any amount of cajoling or what we would like to call civic education would make such people change their minds or see the light. Because suffering is everywhere. And I'm speaking as a Don who is currently suffering. Moi University, we haven't been paid since September. Where are we now? This is October. The university has not, this semester, it was supposed to be the third semester. The second semester, I think the one beginning September. First years who joined Moi University for the first time this year in September have never seen a classroom. They've never had any lecture. And for 7 years, pensions for Moi Uni, I don't have pension. For the last 7 years, no remittances. Yet the thing is deducted from your salary. So in short, we've been earning net salaries. So your pay slip shows, this deduction, the other. If you have loans, it shows a deduction, but the money is not taken to the bank. So there are people who have, the loans have incurred interest. They even have cases with these banks for non-payment of loans. Yet your pay slip, the money has been deducted from it. And still through that suffering, and was to the Moi University chapter, of course, there's the general strike for all universities that began 2 weeks ago, after the one in September was called off, as usual, promises that were never fulfilled, so they called for another one. Then there's the one that is Moi University itself. But still, with even that suffering, you still find traitors, deans who want to force people to class, writing people, memos, the university management writing people show cause letters, lecturers who appear in classes, so maybe 1 out of 7 classes, someone goes to teach, yet this person does not have pension for the last 7 years. This person does not have salary since September. And for people like us who are unwell and health is very costly, you even go to hospital, you wonder, like you're trying to pay for a service, your card is declined. There's no money even in the bank, and you are unwell. And you have a cover, a so-called cover, and right now there is a don from Moi University who has been detained in hospital, in Eldoret, St. Luke Hospital. The man was sick, he has been treated, he's finally well, but they can't release him because your cover cannot cover, 450, almost 500,000. Where is the she, where is the sha? And where is this so-called private? And this is a university done. So you can imagine the kind of humiliation. And these are people with children, people who have to pay rent, people. So if this kind of humiliation cannot get someone to see what the truth is, if that kind of humiliation, where these issues, even they play in parliament, but nobody is doing anything about it. They're just issuing promising notes. Some of them, even the president is not even saying anything about it. And remember, people have not gone to class since September. There are children who have not seen, and yet they paid the school fees when they came in. And nothing is going on. Nobody is saying anything. If people can't see that humiliation, what civic education can we offer them? If people cannot feel that and even betray others, betray the strike, if you're seeing those things doing rounds, maybe they'll find themselves online of lecturers who sneak to class to teach. If they cannot see it, what kind of civic education can we offer? There's no kind of civic education we can offer. Us, even those in the urban areas, the so-called educated, are the ones who even need civic education more than those people in the rural areas that you're talking about. So yes, let's mobilize, let's what, but me, I stopped shouting. I'm an advocate of the street. Let's go to this. I stopped saying let's go to the street for this very reason. That if I have to tell you to go to the street, then you're not ready for the street. Why should I tell you to go to the street? So are you going because I've told you? Are you going because I've told you there's bad governance? Where are your bad governance? We only. That's why I stopped advocating for these street things. I stopped. And the more reason why I even stopped advocating for it's for the way people infiltrated the movement. They came in with their own nefarious, selfish interests, pushing their own people. So as you're saying, Ruto must go, they're imagining they'll put there Gashagwa, they'll put there Kalonzo. Every day there are people coming with their nefarious, you know. That's why I stopped advocating. So if someone wants to go to the street, well and good. But I keep saying, know why you are going there. Know why you are going to die in the street. For what? Are you going to die for somebody? Or you are going to die for what you believe in you as an individual? So yes, a lot is happening, but still, I still feel that we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go with all these traitors, people who are suffering, but you know, mtu wetu is more important than the suffering that they're suffering. I don't know, but fine. Let the Catholic bishops speak. It's a step in the right direction. Let's hope others will speak. Let's hope Kenyans themselves, without being coerced, without being cajoled, without being offered the so-called civic education, we'll see what is happening. That's the only way we are going to save our countries. But before we get there, I think we still have a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for that. And we are hoping for the best on that side of Moi University. It's quite painful to work for that long. You know, you have to go to work, give cuts, mark exams, and then not get paid. And for those who are listening in and wondering why you hear somebody finished university and then could not graduate because they got missing marks, that is how they get the missing marks. Because now, since this lecturer is teaching here on part-time, their salary has not been paid, their dues have not been paid, they decide they're not going to submit your marks, and the university cannot put marks for you that are out of the air. So you'll find out that some of you have lost your marks, and the lecturer is far gone. So part of these issues happen from that, and that is now you seeing people like Moi University. Imagine mtu aliingia first year September na hajawahi ona class, and we are in the middle of November. In 1.5 months, we will be in 2025. In 2025, they will be again told to pay another amount of money calculated by the means testing tools. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Home Run with PP, and that is the reality of life.
This is Home Run with PP.
Western Shilaho, good evening.
Good evening, Pipit. How are you?
I am well, as I told you, I always like keeping well.
Great. Thank you, Pepita. Pepita, just, about our society, we tend to be very peculiar in the way we relate to issues of social justice, representation, good or bad governance. Like, tell me, the constituents of Madeira, why would you hasten signing a booklet, whatever it is, to recall your MP? Not because your MP is non-performing, not because your MP stole money. You may have done all those things. Not because he's inaccessible. Because your MP is part of politicians who sent, the immediate deputy president home. So it's not about your interests. It's about what you think your MP did, which annoyed you. That's peculiar. It's peculiar. It's the enduring deficiency as far as our politics is concerned, that we completely ignore our own interests, and we are ready to put our lives on the line for the the self-serving parochial interests of the political elite. I mean, why didn't we see the signing of whatever booklet or collection of signatures before? It has been accelerated in the aftermath of the impeachment. Well, that is not how to fight for good governance. That's not synonymous with, responsive governance. That's not synonymous with civic citizenship. That's what they call false consciousness. You're fighting for people you think represent you. They don't. They don't represent you. So I find that peculiar. And we think that's democracy. You are recalling a member of parliament because of the decisions he made in a palace coup, in a palace fallout. That's a palace fallout. It's a palace fallout. It's nothing to do with you, an ordinary citizen on the ground. So we have a long way to go, and which why, this civic education thing, tribal politics is not about voting for your core ethnic. Tribal politics is about holding an essentialist mindset, a mindset that is impervious to evidence. Even when there's evidence that, look, the position you're holding is not sustainable, you still hold on to it tightly. And that's why in the US, when they say certain states have become battlegrounds, what it means that people have changed their minds. They have. Or there are people, listen with an open mind. You are, as a Republican candidate, you come, we'll listen to you. You as a Democrat, we'll listen to you. But where it's black and white, well, people have made up their decision long before the elections are held. Can you imagine that kind of political system? The other thing is, when you find that you agree with someone, you're reading from the same script, you ask, is it for the same reasons? You may find yourself with a person or a group of people in the same team or league, but for totally different reasons. And if you don't establish why, you may be mistaken to think that, you're being driven by the same objectives, while in actual sense, it's not. And we run that risk as far as our political problems are concerned. That there's this bandwagoning, everybody's on a bandwagon. So the temptation to imagine that people are on that bandwagon for same objectives of good governance, rule of law, moral rectitude is very high. Well, in actual sense, that's not the case. There are opportunists there, there are charlatans there are chancers there are all sorts of people. Well, the primates, I'm still not convinced. I hold my position, I'm still not convinced that this is some kind of volte-face as far as moral rectitude is concerned, as far as good governance is concerned. I'm not. I hold the position that the church is still struggling to find its bearing, the post-Moi political dispensation, still struggling to find its bearing. Because, you see, they talk about contrition. Contrition is why you own up to the things you have done before. You own up to your mistakes. You own up to your sins. You don't just begin as if, your history begins from there. There are things you've done before. If people remember very well, during the presentation of his certificate to William Ruto at the Bomas of Kenya, the Catholic Church was represented. So was the Anglican Church. Do people remember? They remember more about the Anglican Church, but the Catholic Church was equally represented. Now, look, in another society, the clergy will steer clear, especially when they can see that this election is becoming extremely contested and it's going to be inconclusive. And there will be conflicts thereafter. We steer clear because we will be required to mediate. We steer clear. Let them sort themselves out. If things were to boil over, we can move in and see whether we can help these protagonists find one another. They were there, said prayers and stuff like that. Now, if you're Raila Odinga and you feel hard done by, so those clergies, if they were to call you to some room for some mediation, will you turn up? would you turn up? You would not turn up, and you would be within your right not to turn up, because you would accuse them of having taken sides. But when they come to speak, they don't tell you that in the past, we've made decisions and we could have been more discernful. We've made decisions in the past. We could have been more discernful. No, they just start speaking and condemning of the government of lies and stuff like that, taking advantage of the people's frustrations and disillusionment, which in itself is not in keeping with, what God, demands of us as his children, as Christians, not to take advantage of, poor people, frustrated people, disillusioned people. David Ndii, if you look on his timeline, he's posted a picture where the Catholic primates are there with William Ruto, and there's money there, some words of notes in some suitcase or whatever it is. What is that picture telling you? What the picture is telling you is that the government has got dirt on these people. It has dirt on them. Yeah, it does. In the recent past, it's been very fashionable for politicians to buy these people cars when they're being installed. Cars. So I ask myself, the church with all its wealth cannot buy a bishop a car? Or is it about the type of car that the bishop wants? The church with all this wealth can't buy the bishop, newly installed, a car. Politicians have to do it. And then you ask, what do they get in return? What do they get in return? Because politicians don't just do things because they're charitable, they're philanthropic. No. The decisions they make, they purport to be, caring. They're not caring. They're cynical. There's something they're expecting in return. And what will betide you if you don't know? If you don't know. In Zimbabwe, there was a Catholic priest, the Archbishop of Bulawayo, the second largest city, was called Archbishop Pius Ngube. He was very much against Robert Mugabe. He was on Mugabe's case, and he spoke, people listened. What the Mugabe government did, at some point, they just leaked some sleazy tapes in which that bishop was seen, in some compromising situation with some woman. And that sank the bishop. He was never heard of again. Where he went, no one knows. So the state is very powerful, especially if you are its critic, and you better be clean. Don't meet these politicians at night. Don't drive into State House, and then you come out of State House and you want to speak against these people. They have got a dossier on you. They have got a dossier on you, and they'll release it. The David Ndii one is just a very light one. In other jurisdictions, as I'm putting it, like in the Zimbabwe. So you must have clean hands if you're a man of God. But you can't be a man of God who invites politicians and the people can see the politician is giving you money. The politician is buying you cars. The politician comes and says, I'm going to buy pews for this church. I'm going to finish, the construction of this church. What is the politician getting in return? Well, your moral rectitude. That's what he's buying. He's buying your silence. When you raise your voice, he asks you, where do you think the money I gave you came from? Where? It's part of that loot. If you think it's part of that loot. It's part of the money I used to buy you a car. And it didn't start yesterday. Even Ndingi Mwananzeki, who used to be on Moi's case, especially in Rift Valley, when he was the bishop of Nakuru, during the ethnic-driven clashes back in time. When he moved to Nairobi, he was bought a car. By that time, it was called Democratic Party, DP, headed by Mwai Kibaki. At that time, he was, I think, the official leader of opposition. And some people are scandalized. That's why have you allowed politicians to buy you a car? What are you getting? What are they getting in return? How are you going to speak against these politicians? And yet they've given you a car. Can't the church buy you a car? That was a scandal. big scandal. It hasn't stopped. They have been receiving cars ever since. They have been. So it's not the in thing for you if you're a Catholic, a member of the Catholic Church, to defend the Catholic primates because you're a member of the Catholic Church. That's tribal politics. The same thing as defending ODM or Azimio or whichever party, Roots, or whichever party, for no other reason because you're a member of that party. So you are very much impervious to reason and logic. It's not true. The church has failed the society, the Kenyan society, and that cannot be belabored. It's evident. It's evident. You see, in other jurisdictions, church people are so morally powerful because even in states, we talk about America is powerful because of its military might. Some other states are powerful because of moral gravitas. And that's what Mandela, for instance, counted on. Moral gravitas. That when the world would see Nelson Mandela, they saw a moral colossus. A politician who doesn't draw his power from anything else other than morality and ethics. So why do church people think that morality and ethics does not amount to power? Well, why do they think so? So why do they drive to State House? It should be people who reside in State House who are looking for church people. It should be William Ruto driving into the Archbishop's compound for counsel, for advice. So no, it shouldn't be the other way around, what we're seeing. Why? What is it that William Ruto can give you that the church can't give you? What is it? The church can't build a house for you? They can't buy a car for you? They can't sustain you as far as your needs are concerned? Why do you have to suck up to politicians? That's a question. It's a question that we have to ask, and robustly so as a society. We don't. We're giving church people a free pass, but they're very powerful. The church is the second wealthiest entity to the state, not just in Kenya, across the world. Even if you go to the US, go to Britain, all over, second to the state, very powerful. So why don't you leverage this power for the interest, for the sake of the vulnerable, of the poor, of the marginalized? Why can't you leverage this power to act as the salt of the earth? Why don't you do so? Why don't you leverage this power to be the conscience of the society? Why do you suck up to politicians? When politicians are having their meetings about constitutional review, church people are there. Read the history of the country, church people are there. You are in the midst. Then Kenyans don't get a constitution. So how are you going to explain yourself to Kenyans? You are part of that mess. You didn't stand aside. Some of them were heading those committees. I don't know, Bishop so-and-so is head of that committee. Okay, at the end of the day, Kenyans don't have the constitution. What are you going to tell them? You are part of the mess. And that's why when things go haywire, God forbid that they don't go haywire, we have to look for mediators from outside the country. Oh, Tutu is now dead. The other day, Kofi Annan is dead. Where are we going to get these people? If we don't have our own people within our midst, who can call these politicians to order? Where are we going to get these external actors to come always from Tanzania? Politicians from Tanzania. They come to Kenya all the time to help us save ourselves from ourselves. It can't be. Why? Because of deviancy. Deviancy. That's what explains our public life. And it doesn't just afflict the political elite, it also afflicts the clergy. It afflicts, as you heard, intelligentsia. Intelligentsia. For 8 years, your university has not been remitting your pension. For 8 years, why have you been waiting? For 8 years? For 8 years. Yeah, because it hadn't hit you. Within 8 years, the problems you thought were for, this ordinary, these mere mortals. They are not professors. They don't have PhDs. They don't have big titles. So they were their problems. But they have caught up with you. As Nimola puts it, the one that Avina just referenced, Pastor Nimola, during the Holocaust in Europe, you don't divorce yourself from the plight of fellow human beings. Because if you don't stand up for them, They will be wiped out. You remain, and they'll come for you because you're exposed. So it has been silos. They are not my problems. I'm earning a salary. My bank, there's money there. Or you people, oh, I pity you. But gradually the state is decaying, and it's decaying for everybody. Eventually we realize, you know what? The thing is decayed for all of us. All of us are going home with virtually nothing. They have raided our paychecks. Initially, I thought it was just a preserve of those low-income earners. I thought it was a preserve of those who reside in, high-density neighborhoods, informal settlements. I thought it was a preserve of rural dwellers. They are not sophisticated enough. They don't appreciate, the whole business of governance. You realize, no, the state has decayed. Governance has decayed. So I am very much not convinced about these clergymen. I'm not convinced. They are playing catch up. When a person says, those people are running ahead, I'm their leader. You are their leader and you're playing catch up. How can you be their leader? You should be in front. You can't be their leader while you're panting the way you're doing, running, catching up with them. You're not their leader. It should be the ones who are following you because you're the shepherd. Why are you following them? So I can put it to you, if Gen Zs had not poured onto the streets last June, it would have been business as usual. We minimize the impact of what the Gen Zs did. We minimize. It's very fundamental. And no one can say they didn't achieve anything. No one can minimize that. If they had not poured onto the streets, it would still have been business as usual. People are just lamenting in their own small corners. Oh, I'm going to order food from the rural areas. Some were saying that the cost of living is becoming unbearable. I'll order some sweet potatoes or bananas from the rural areas. You're organizing your life around bad governance. You're organizing your life around autocracy. You're not confronting it. You learn how to cope with it. For how long will you cope with it? How do you cope with lack of medicine? How are you going to cope with that? How do you cope with lack of functional schooling system? How do you cope with that? You can't. It's not possible. It's not possible. How do you cope with a decayed economy? You can't cope around that. You can't organize yourself around that. You can't. It's not possible. But the mindset would have been that. So the Gen Zs are the avant-gardes of just not change, of mind shift in thinking, paradigm shift. And we don't give them the credence they deserve. You think, no, you didn't gain anything. No, what do you have to show for it? What do you mean they don't have something to show for it? What is it? Things have changed. They'll not be the same. Politicians who take Kenyans for granted going forward, they'll be in for a rude shock. They'll be in for a rude shock. So it's not like there are tangible things you can see. Or they burned a building. Or I don't know. No, it's not like that. It's the mindset that we are not going to take this nonsense going forward. And you take us for granted, we promise you we'll take you to the cleaners. That's the message they're driving across. That's the message. We don't have guns. We don't have bazookas. We have the minds, the resoluteness, the sheer force of numbers. That is it. In any polity since the recorded history, when people work together as a collective, you even with your military force, your tanks, your artillery, you can't defeat them. It's as simple as that. You can't defeat them. So you better respond to the demands that they are making. So fellow compatriots, I don't give the clergy any free pass. I don't. I think the church has colluded with Kenya's oppressors for the longest time. And that's why government apologists, they can really pinpoint some of these clergy and berate them for double standards, for inconsistency. And some of them are even downrightly dismissed as ethnic jingoes, tribalists. You hear they're writing those things. They're government people, and they know because they hop up with them. They know the things they're talking about. So don't move anywhere close to government people. Even in this movement, you can see some of the people who are considered de facto leaders. They're hanging around with politicians. You don't do that because they will damage you. You are a threat to them. If you're outside of their orbit, you are a threat to them. But when they bring you in their orbit, now they can destroy you. They can destroy you, and they will do it. When you try to define yourself outside of them, they just shoot you down. It could be a dossier. It could be money that they wired into your account, and you're done. You need credibility. If you're fighting against people who are such, who are such colors, you need credibility more than anything else. And you move closer to them, you take pictures with them, well, you're finished. You're completely finished. It's just that picture they need, to pull out and say, this is your leader. Here we were with your leader. What do you think we're discussing? You want us to tell you what we're discussing? You want us to tell you what we're discussing? That is enough to make you lose face among us, those you are purportedly championing for. So we must be careful. Church people have not been careful. They're not careful. Now it's fashionable. Everybody is speaking against the William Ruto administration. So it's very fashionable to speak against it. It's fashionable. But to stand out and say, look here, immediately after Ruto was sworn in, the things we're doing, who stood up? Was it the church? It's not like they began this thing yesterday. They started taking Kenyans for a ride immediately after they were sworn in. Where was the church? Where was the church? And that's why the church has been dismissed as having been against Moi as a person, not against the excesses that the Moi administration was accused of. So in the post-Moi political dispensation, they saw no need to continue speaking against those excesses. And they are now rising up now. When they rise up now, I promise you, they will be dismissed the way government apologists are dismissing them. Where were you when Kibaki was in power? Where were you when Uhuru Kenyatta was in power? And you can't dismiss that because we're talking about morality, and morality is about consistency. Even when no one is seeing what you're doing, you do it because it's the right thing to do. What if somebody is watching you? So morality is not, when you're by yourself, no one is seeing you, you do your own things. When you're outside, everybody's seeing you, you do the right thing. That's not morality. That's cynical. You're being cynical. So you can't say, it doesn't matter that we didn't speak up during the Kibaki era. No, it doesn't matter. We didn't speak up during the Uhuru Kenyatta era. We're speaking now. No, but can you explain why you didn't speak up? What was the problem? Were you dumb? Were you dumb? Why didn't you speak up? You can't explain that. And if you can't, the inference is that you are opportunistic. The inference is that you've got a personal vendetta against the person you're speaking against, as opposed to institutionalized corruption, institutionalized ethnicity, institutionalized bad governance. We better watch out when these things unfold before our very eyes. We have to watch out and pick the lessons. If we don't, we'll fall in the same pitfalls as they are doing. I don't think William Ruto is scared of the church. He's not, because he knows how much money is given the church. He knows. He knows the kind of things he's discussed with them. He's not scared of them. I can promise you. He is not. Thank you. Keep well.
Thank you so much for that, Tristan Shilaho. I see Japonji is in the building. Thank you, Japonji, for tuning in, and also nimeona umeingia pale kwa tipja. Wacha nikupigia makofi. Siku hizi ni kugumu huko. Unajua hata siku hizi kanisa imeamua wataki hata mchango.
Yeah, that is true. Now, I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you, Peter. I just came in like 12 minutes ago. I was listening to Western. Western, thank you for your consistency in the spaces, and I always love listening to you. I just wanted to light up like a few things that I heard you talking about. You see, the bishops. You say the bishops were not there during Kibaki, during Uhuru, during And that's exactly what the government apologists are saying. But if you do a fact check, which we have done since morning, you realize that the same bishops have been speaking, only that people were not listening. They spoke when Moi was there. And you know what happened? That's why there's fear. You realize that 32, how we call them, notices zimetolewa since bishops waongea, huh? And they're saying that that bishop took it on his own accord. But we realize that there are 28 bishops across the country who signed the same media, like a publication, So my point is, as much as we are talking here in your space, Pipita, there are things that just allow us to come in sometimes and try to correct, because it sends a very bad, precedence, or we are trying to go the government apologist way. We should try to avoid that, So I just wanted to correct that. But going forward, so Catholic bishops speak. The one thing that I wanted to say here that I have done my due diligence and checked is that the Catholic Church in Kenya has over 18 million baptized Catholics, which is almost 40% of the country's population. So according to the 2019 National Housing Census reported that 10.6 million of these Catholics are regular mass attendees na wako Nakuru. So you understand why the state feels threatened. So if you look at it from this point, then you realize that actually the church has a bigger role to play, and that's why they are producing all these news, like defending the regime at all costs, So I wanted to put that straight, and let me keep listening. I'm working out. Then I will try to pop in at some time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that clarification, Brother Japonji, as well. Now, let me just read a comment here from a lady from Kenyatta University. I hope she's here. Anaitwa Honorable Mwangale Agnes. Agnes Mwangale, ni Agnes. Yes, Agneta Mwangale. Agneta Mwangale has written a comment here that she is a student of Moi University, and that is where I got that submission of they have not been in class since September. Let's see. I'm trying to find a comment here from her. People have been commenting. While I'm trying to find that comment, you can request the microphone about 25 minutes before we end it here on Home Run. And of course, make sure you go to that link if you have come to this space, and go to that link, HRWP. You will subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You should not be busy. You should not be bored over the weekend. Yeah, watch those stories that are there, including poet Willie Oeba, who was in Moi University, and now you see Moi University is crumbling. He grew his talent in Moi University. Imagine if Moi University was not there during his time as he grew up in talent, he would not be wherever he is right now. So check out, click on that link, or go to YouTube and search HRWP, Home Run with PP, and you will see my big head there. Make sure you subscribe. We are at 450 subscribers. Tukifika 500, I see about 81 people here. If 20 of you just subscribe to that channel right now, we will be at 470. So click on that link. Yes, while I'm trying to read these comments, the link is on the tweet that is pinned on this show right now, HRWP Journey Series. Click on that link right now and subscribe. I'm actually refreshing while I find that subscription. We are at 197 views. Guys, come on. Yes, so while we are hitting on that subscribe, you can always support Home Run with PP through the tip jar line 0721948229. Of course, Home Run with PP is an independent voice. We do not have any corporate or government sponsors behind this show. So all the income, all the way we maintain this show is through the tip jar line. That is how I maintain my show, including kuweka studio. And whenever I've found myself in a financial fix, I've always come out to the listeners na nikasema ukweli niko na fuliza, and of course the listeners have always gotten us there. So kusikia kwamba watu wanasema kwamba home run pia iko associated na kuwa government pro government, bwana ni kunikosea heshima. Earlier this year, if you saw hashtag free my passport, that was me, and we got what we got. And you see now passports are coming out as they're coming out. Though I was a victim of my own success, 300 days waiting for passports. So for people to just come out and say that now, oh, we are people that are now pro-govern, it is just utter nonsense. But anyway, we understand some people live out of abusing people. So yeah, Honorable Esther Agneta, I think she says that the student leaders at Moi University, the president and the secretary general is Kalenjin, so they are not. They went in, what we call it, unopposed. Kenya's collective spirit is on the right path. However, the government of Kenya stands in stark contrast. Ultimately, we the people shall emerge victorious, laughing last and longest. We must remain steadfast and resolute, continuing to forge ahead. That is Jeffy K.E. Do you think people reduced going to church? This is just a random question to everybody. I feel like people also reduced going to church, the youth, especially after what they did in June. I think people just stopped going to church. But yeah, for people who have not gone to church, I see EKM saying, can't wait to hear women from church yelling Sugoi guy abuse their bishop. Sugoi will have it take. That is EKM. Thank you so much for that submission as well. Mkuu sasa anasema Tangazo University should train clergy of other churches. I don't want to say anything else. Yani he knows everything. Ataanzisha vita ya Catholic ataweza. All right. So there's a lot of comments as well you're seeing here. The church has been in dialogue with the Pharaoh Kalinda government. Let my people go. It's only because it became public yesterday. Talk to your priest. That is KD Little earlier on as well. So regards the microphone, I've had very disappointing submissions from the lady like Gloria, especially when it comes to lecturers not getting paid their salaries from September. And you know, Moi University has been closed, then opened. Students have not gone to school. I really want to hear something from there as well. I don't know. Gloria, now that wameambia watu warudi nyumbani shuleni, are they planning to like pay your back pay ama bado hiyo tutajipanga? Gloria?
Let me come later, kuna distraction hapa kidogo.
Okay, sawa.
Kaniuliza niko.
Hi, let's have new speakers coming over talking to us, because right now we are just getting. Naona hapa Western wametoka kuongea. Gloria is busy. Japonji is working out. Guys, Japonji is working out, listening to Home Run with people. I know some people listen to us while they're driving. How? And Google listens to us while he's working on his bike.
Yeah. Sorry, Pipita. Today is like shoulders day, man. We have to work out. We have to be ready. Thanks.
Sasa utanitumia ka workout hivi, because next year I want to stop some bad habits and start working out. Yeah.
Make it a lifestyle. Just make it a lifestyle. One time open your space ya mambo ya fitness. Tutaongea. Hiyo ndio profession yangu, boss. Sawa.
Tufanye, unajua ingekuwa si eti next Thursday tuko na shughuli na must go. Tungeifanya next Thursday kwa fitness Thursday, but we can organize because Home Run is always on.
Just organize and chip me in everything to do with the fitness, diet, hizo vitu za obesity, hizo zote. That's what hiyo ndio inanipatia pesa ya rent.
kama vile mimi podcast kuongea inanipatia rent, wewe ni unajua kama mimi nikiamkanga asubuhi nisikia kama niko na homa hivi, nasikianga kitega uchumi imeenda haki. There was a time nilipoteza sauti hapa wiki, kina Western ndo walikuwa wananishikilia show. Ladies and gentlemen, let us bring Western.
Yeah.
Sasa ukiamka usisikia mikono yako, unasikia
ni kuzoea, unazoea. You just make it a lifestyle.
Nice.
Yani, ni kitu unajua, ni kitu tulisomea, alafu ni kitu unapenda. Actually, is one of the courses being offered in KU. We were pioneers of sports science. It's one of the courses yenye huwa iko undermined, but trust me, it's one of the best courses. Juwezi kosa job. So yeah.
Nice. I hope kuna mtu anasikiza hapa hivi na anafikiria hiyo uwanja. Yeah.
It's there. We were pioneers, and actually we did very good. You know, like we did very good. And huku nje tunapata those guys who don't have papers, and we just, you know, walk through them, you know, because we do what we love and we love what we do. So we don't feel like working, you know. So that's what it is. So
yeah,
one time,
actually, guys, I feel like, nitafungua, you know, me, I actually feel like it's work because I sit here 6 hours listening to people. Some people are insufferably tiring in the mind. Wengine ni machopi, wengine wako na kizungu. Imagine listening to 10 having me said as.
Uko na information mob sana. You have a lot, but you have to like screen to what's important to you, what you take from. By the fitness lifestyle, I can just tell you something that me last time nilienda Hosi, and it's not like to brag. Last time nilienda Hosi sijui ilikuwa 2019. Unaget? Since tu niweke fitness lifestyle, 2019 ndio last time nilienda huko, like before your COVID hata ianza. So and hata saizi nikaambia HR ati sijui kichwa inaniuma, wao wanacheka. Juu wao wanaangalia record na nasema, guy, you've never been sick. You've never taken sick leave or anything. Yes. But sasa wananiambia tu go. So that's what I'm talking about. Lifestyle, unajua, kuelewa what brings, how the pharma industry works, unajua. So once you get that, that's why mi upenda Amerix. But sasa, uba Amerix huwa anaongeza chumvi kidogo.
Wewe sasa unataka kufungua...
No, it is what it is. It is good.
Unataka kufungua bakuli lingine hapa na nataka kwenda kupumzika. Si umesema fitness ni kurest? Yeah.
Ndio hiyo.
Wacha story ya Amerix tuilete next week. Wakati tuko na nguvu.
Nimewachana nayo. So
very nice.
Just before I leave, because I have a friend here who ananitongoa. So I just wanted to tell you, see, if pharmaceutical companies cured you, they'll go bankrupt. See, if banks helped you get out of debt, they will collapse. If politicians actually solved all your problems, nobody will elect them again. If Tom kills Jerry, the show is over. The thing is fake. Thanks, man. Keep injecting.
That is a man like Japonji. Let's give him up like with this one. Let's do it like that.
You are listening to Home Run with Pipi. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Nimeona hapa hivi mtu quarter to the hour anaitwa Honorable Agneta. Mheshimiwa Honorable Agneta. Si ulisema watu walipita na oppose. Kwani tena ulipata kiti? Hi.
Hi.
Habari ya huko Keses?
Keses tuko tunapambana. We're trying.
Mtu aliniambia kwamba Moi University huko ndani is a whole community. That is Willy Weber. Is a whole community, watu wameoana huko, kuna watu wajaitoka huko for years. Now that saizi shule ni kama imefungwa, ama what is happening in that community in Moi huko?
Thank you very much for having catch up after quite some time sijakuwa na kwa on, but at least I'm back. It's a lot of things, shitty. I don't know. But yes, we went home. You remember we had some demos kidogo. Then the school was closed because it was around 2 months without being taught. So the students just decided to raise alarm like, we've paid, so why are you not teaching us? And no response, nobody talking about it, like nobody to go to. So students were like, no, then we have to go like ask these people in a different, Kenyans understand the way Kenyans understand Kenyan leaders. So by the time they were planning to go to us, that's when they met the memo of closure. So, and meeting the memo of closure, the armed, not armed, the men in uniform were already there, like in the very big numbers. So it had to be whatever it was, and we had casualties. But then after we were called back, so we are waiting to see what's happening. Yesterday we saw our lecturer. Was it yesterday? Yes. Yesterday we also saw our lecturers were trying also to speak out, but they were not allowed in school. The police were around, so walikuwa tamed. They never went through the gate, like, so they were forced to have their meeting outside the gate, the new gate, our new expensive gate. So like, I think that's how it is. Students are just frustrated.
Wait,
like,
you guys have a gate and people have not been paid?
Well, we have a gate of over
What?
25 25 Can you afford that? Yeah, so I don't know, but okay, students are just there. Me, my problem is freshers. Okay, I'm a director. I'm a student leader. So I'm holding a position of a director, social affairs and student welfare, basically. So my issue is freshers, but those people have never been oriented. Most of them, of course, there are few who have been oriented. A good number of them, of course, school of us and a bigger population of reasonable numbers, more than 2,000, around 2,000 hapo. So hawajako oriented, like they don't know exactly, like hawajui anything to do with university, never went to class, never saw anybody they know, like hakuna kabisa. So they ukiuliza mtu like, no, what's your name, what are you doing, like nimefanya course transfer, like they don't understand anything. Uko kwa any WhatsApp group, yeah, maybe a class or they don't know, they're just there, wanda uko hostels, they sleep, wake up, sleep to wait for the evening so that they can sleep and sleep to wait up for the morning. So that's it. So it's really frustrating. Najua we've lost very many students during this small period. Yeah, so under two months, like this month last month tumepoteza around 7 students. 7.
To
Na
suicide.
a few wamekuwa suicide, then wengine tu some accidents zenye zingekuwa avoided ka tungekuwa class. So I don't know. Na bado tunaendelea hivi, like lecturers wako na stances zao. Nimesikia rumors kidogo that lecturers have been dismissed because they were participating in demos and what. You've had Madam Gloria. I think she's my lecturer or something. So I've had like some of them have been dismissed, some of them have been given show cause, and so but a few nimesikia kuna wachache wanafunza online, but the whole population iko resistant juu like they are being forced to go to class, yet their remittance has not been they have not been paid for quite some months. I don't know, like it's a whole bad things. Anyway, I should not just speak about my university because I'm a patriotic Kenyan. Other universities, they also have students. They have not attended class for the last 1 month. Of course, you can see kuna graduations inaendelea and what have you. Hizo ni vitu zilikuwa planned before na dates zikafika before the strike ingine imeanza. Sujue there was a strike, then with worker end, but now the demands were not met, so they have resumed. So utapata these other universities as well, maybe in a graduation, unapata like hiyo graduation may happen before the resumption of the strike. So other students hawasomi, they're not in class. In fact, I'm in a platform in we are all student leaders across the country. They're discussing on, I don't know, how can they solve that. But now you'll find that most of the student leaderships I recently, currently, they're not working out because utapata the management in a control everything. So finding a very strong, powerful leadership kama the previous years, like some years ago, then you'll find that see popular vote, like sisi tunakuwa elected na delegate system, see popular vote. So utapata like some people hata hawana touch, like the leaders, yes, but they don't have that touch na students. So kuna university hawasomi kabisa totally, na wako wana expect exam. Kuna wengine walipush exam hadi 23rd December, like for instance sijui ni Kisii, think ni Kisii University, walikuwa wakuwa na exams this month but ikabidi wamepush, but bado hawasomi juu the national wide strike is still going on. So bana, education sector is collapsing day in and out. There is nobody speaking about it. Everybody is silent, like kabisa. In fact, history ya Moi ndio iko inakuwa distraction, yet other university pia zinaumia. So like if it's to salvage the situation, then it should be the university, and not just university bana. When we see this country, you can see that education system in a fail, like it's failing. Things are just not adding up. Ukiangalia CBC, it's a mess. Ukiangalia, of course, high schools, of course, ina roll out like, I think ni 2 to 3 classes. Awa kitoka, then kutakuwa na form 2, 3 and 4. So hatujui nini ita happen. Aya, walimu pia walikuanga strike the other man. Sijui kama walikuwa sorted ama ilikuwa tena half. Me remember when I was joining first year, Moi, 2021, tena tulikuwa na search nini, like we didn't do exam, tena kulikuwa na strike, like gavana jaribu kusort things kidogo, not kidogo per se, but they are carrying over I don't know, over ahead, I don't know what's which, I don't know, but wanajaribu kususpend the problem, then inafika mahali inakuwa too much that they cannot handle, and they start crying. And I think kila kitu sahi imekuwa politicized. Like for instance, angalia the topic that we are here today. Nobody ever imagined that we can reach such a point. Hakuna, like everything is just a mess. Ukiangalia health, KMPDU, they're issuing notices very soon. We have our students who wanafanya medicine. They are training in hospitals. So if anything happens, then our medicine students, not in Moi University alone, and other institutions in zina offer medicine course, they'll be affected, of course, automatically. Utapata watu wenye like the interns, au bado ni students too, kinda, of course wamegraduate, but kuna venye bado they're working under instruction. So you'll find that pia watakuwa affected like vibaya sana. So I don't see the point even of masomo. Okay, of course I know its value, but now it may reach a point where now like kusoma, it has just become something different, like something, I don't know, juu wase wenye people who doesn't have the skills but they have I don't know what, those are the people who get jobs. When you decline this, you'll be given the other one. If you don't want that, you can choose whatever you want, you'll be given. But people who have the skills and ability to do the same, they are routing in borders, matatus, and streets. Nobody cared. Nobody is speaking for them. But now you'll find the problem now is they are not willing to come out and speak. Like people have given up. That's the problem that you're having. Wase wamefight hadi si ati kufight, like wase wamamua to give up, forgetting that they're raising a generation, forgetting that they have a tomorrow to live. Me, it really pities me to see a young person and I give up at this point, forgetting that now wanafaa waingie job market, wanafaa waishi for the next 30 years. I don't know what they really want. I don't know exactly whatever they do want. Like how can a young person today give up? Now how are you going to help your kids, your future generation? How? But it's right time that I don't know what we just can do, because Gloria talked about it and said we don't need to remind people, bana. We have seen and we experiencing it. Like tunaiona kama ni macomrade shule wana vile life ni ngumu. Kama ni wase wako streets wamemaliza kusoma, they know how looking for a job outside here is hard. So like I don't see the point tena tuanze kuambia watu sijui nini, alafu utapata at least kuna some population, people are learning, people have gone to school, but now the problem is their reasoning, like they just reason like I don't know. So unapata these are kind of people wenye wanaturudisha nyuma juu mse mwenye hajasoma akiona mtu amesoma na reason hivi, then be like like where are we headed? Anajiambia eri hata at least kusoma juu I could not even afford being stupid like this person. So tumefika point yenye everything imeharibika. Nini, health it's bad, education is bad, now church is kwanza tulikuwa tumeanza historia ya kutax church. I don't know how it ended. So today we are on this, tomorrow we don't know what will follow. So if we cannot do something today, then we are losing our country forever and forever. And if we can manage to do something, if we really can speak the same language. Hata mi nitaambia Gloria, mi kuna time nilikuwa nikikuja spaces ningewaka niseme venye like nigombanishe watu, like siku hizi hata I just as long as I've done the right thing, then I'm good to go. You can't force people. Yes, you can advise somebody, but the decision is theirs to make. So bana, when we come here, bana, acha tujengane, acha tujenge nchi yetu, and that's it. That's what we have, and the only thing, that's the Kenya we have. So if we see it failing and falling, we should not be happy and standing aside and say, sani nyinyi, leo sisi. It's very wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Agneta, for that. I'm trying to see the comment section hapa hivi. Hizi silhouette zinanibamba mbaya sana. Eti Bishop wako hapa ndani, Kindiki nipe lighter. Oh my God. Submissions by Gloria and Agneta are horrifying and very heartbreaking. That is bionic. This is a whole university, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, if you don't know. That is Moi University. And we have just listened from a lecturer and from a student. Hapa ndani ya Home Run with Pipi. Submissions by Gloria and Agneta are horrifying and very heartbreaking. This is terrible. What's happening at unis in Kenya, the lecturers are being robbed of their pay with deduction that don't serve purpose. Students are unaliving themselves, no classes to attend. I also have a relative who works at the university, and some university is paying their lecturers 65% of their salary. Their staff, literally. 65% of their salary for the past 4 years. And they're not even promised that they're going to get their money. And you know, Western, when you speak of, you know, what are you doing when you've not been paid and you're just there? It is not by choice, you see, as in, it's not like you would, this is a permanent job, like you're expecting to get paid from it. And then you are being told, wait for next month, something is going to be better. Government releases money, and now you see like that 26 million, if it was purposed well, it would have probably paid some lecturers, but they decided to build a gate. Same as your Egerton University's gate. I'm like, okay, why? Why? Okay, it's big. So somebody said here that Miss Giant are Europe, but somebody said in some countries that universities don't have gates. But in Kenya, universities have bigger gates. Very big. It's like the gates are the ones that are going to school. So pray for Kenya, Mama Kenya. Yeah. That is what I have to say this week. I'd like to hear, I don't know if Gloria is back, maybe talk to your student. I don't know, kama mtahave trauma bond. Juu hapa if there is no safe space. Wote mko tu kwa shida. Gloria, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Mesikia Agneta anasema she's your student.
She's my student, siwezi mkata. Ni mtoto wetu. Yeah, I mean the situation is just terrible. Unaona kama like she's spoken of accidents that happen unnecessarily. Like there are 2 students who drowned kwa something that was, I think it was a quarry that was left unattended, alafu iko na maji. Of course, being idle, students walienda kuswim. They dived but they didn't know hapo ni matope. So they instead got stuck kwa hiyo matope, of course suffocated and died. So what she's telling you is true. And that could have been avoided if students were occupied, if they were in class, because unaona management inashinda ikidanganya students ati kujeni, sijui classes zitaanza. So students are also keeping hope. And remember the economic situation. If you think about going home, maybe kwenu ni Mombasa, kwenu ni wapi, you think of that transport. Niende nyumbani, and then maybe they call us tomorrow or the day after, and I don't have transport to come back. So students instead have chosen to hang around. Unaona? And so many things are happening because of them being there idle. But the government doesn't seem to care. You see, much as we are feeling our students, but also we are also in the situation where it is now or never. We can't go back. Because I can't imagine now if something was to happen, mimi sina pension, because I haven't worked for long. I became permanent, say, was it in 2015? And if since 2017 people don't have pension, it means I have no pension. Sasa nikisema, okay, now I'm leaving work, nategemea nini? So there's also the other side. Lecturers are also parents, they have kids to feed, they have rent to pay, they have. So for me, what I would advise Mwangale, and it's a good thing she said that she's a student leader. Talk to your fellow student leaders. Let's join together. Mutafute WASU leaders in your universities, the NSG, mukuje pamoja, so that we speak as one voice, because we're all suffering. Students are suffering, lecturers are suffering. Because if you ask me, students have paid fee, and Mwangale will confirm, in Moi, and I'm sure in all other universities, Moi at least unaweza soma kama hujalipa fee. The other universities like UON, you can't go to class without first paying fee. But all over, you can't sit exams without paying school fees. So parents have done their bit. They've paid school fees, especially ukimagine first years when you waliregister na school fees. So you can imagine that situation at uliregister, ulilipa fee. Wewe uko tu university jina. You don't even know what you're supposed to do. Imagine such a situation. So the only way is to join together. Niliona some student leaders met at UON, did a conference, wakasema Monday that you guys are going to go on the streets. I ask that you reach out to the union, the WASU, your lecturers. Let us work together. This is our fight. Sisi wote we are suffering, and I'm not happy, especially ukisikia ati students wanakufa. I mean, what is that? Even me as a teacher, I'm supposed to be teaching. Mimi ni venye tu sasa I'm on sick leave. But if I was well, I'm supposed to be teaching. Kwa nini watoto wakae shule na wewe kama mwalimu, what is your mandate? See, to give them knowledge na waende, because kuna wengine wamekaa shule, they've never graduated. Years and years are going by, especially watoto wa School of Medicine, because of unending strikes. Sincerely, hata mtu ana give up. Unasikia wakianza kusema masomo haisaidii. The same thing hata sisi tunakaa, unasema umesoma mpaka hiyo PhD na kusaidia na nini? If people who have not gone to school, the studies of this world, are the ones determining your future, are the ones determining your destiny. Why did you go to school? They are earning lots of money, stealing money left, right, center. 10 billion sijui kwenda AUC, but there's no money to pay lecturers their monies. I mean, what is that? What is that? So what's the point? Either they say they are closing all universities, masomo tujue Kenya kuna masomo, ama, let them decide what they want. But we can't have, few people deciding the future of our children, deciding our own destinies. When wao wenyewe hata they don't even appreciate education. Some of them have never even been to classrooms, but now they're deciding our future, earning a lot of money, arrogance, left, right, center. So for me, the only way out hapa ni kuungana. So, Honorable, talk to your fellow student leaders. Tuungane, we speak in one voice. We have to work together. We need even to bring in parents, because parents are paying fees. Our parents wenye wana lose watoto wao to suicide. Parents wenye saizi watoto wako idle, hawajui hata watoto, wazazi wako na wasiwasi. They don't know what their kids are up to. So we all have to come together and speak in one voice. Otherwise, if these ones are fighting here, and then the management pia iko na tabia inatumia student leaders and class reps against lecturers, the oppressed are now fighting each other instead of the oppressed coming together and speaking in one voice. For me, that will be the only way out. Let us, unite as student leaders, as union leaders, as, lecturers, as parents. Let us unite and speak in one voice, because the education sector in Kenya is dead. If it's not dying, it's already dead. For me, like, it's dead. There's nothing going on. Speaking of gates, can you imagine? Kwanza Moi had 2 gates. No, they don't give any. Ujinga, they spent the 25 million you're talking about was for the first gate. Wamejenga geti, and then wakaambiwa mali wamejenga geti, it's a whatever. It's a main road. Like, it's not part of the university. Waka abandon hiyo without finishing. Then they went and put some 50 million in some other ugly looking gate. Universities abroad have been to hakuna gate. They're just buildings. They are part of the community. Money is just being used on nonsensical things. But where it matters the most, where the future of our children matters, there is no money. How can we have such a country? They are quiet. Bishops wakisema tu ngwe ndo hao 15 whatever pressers washatoa wanaongea kila mahali. But nobody is talking about the situation in universities. Nobody is talking about the situation in hospitals. Mahospitali mingi ziko na go slow. Nobody is even talking about it. being raised in parliament, is not being raised. But wakiambiwa ni waongo mwe washatoka. No, we cannot have such a country. We cannot. It's high time we did something about it. Either we are ready to suffer or we are ready to fight back. It's two things. There's no middle ground hapo katikati. Either we are ready to fight them or we are ready to suffer. Either we take back our country or we give up and say let them do whatever it is that they want to do.
Guy, nasema meet. Asante sana Gloria for that. I don't know if you had finished ama mimi ndio nimekumute.
Nilimaliza hata nimeishiwa na nguvu hata.
Pole, rest, take some, have some rest. Of course, wishing you quick recovery as well during this time. Unajua sasa inakuwa tena more stressful to you that you're sick, and as well pia ndio hawa tena wanachezea bag yenu. You know, pension ndo watu wanafanyia kazi so that they can have a good retirement, and then they realize that also your good retirement and wanafikiria they're going to have, you guys are playing with it. So it's quite something. So quick recovery, Gloria, as well, long time listener and supporter of our show as well. I see Japonji is here who has already gone to work out. Tuonane next week. Japonji ama bado uko kwa mic?
Pipita, me, wacha nimalizane na workout. What I can say, Gloria, thanks for that. I was listening hata kama nilikuwa kwa sets, and I hope the university changes this, and I hope also she could talk about this thing about tribalism in the universities, about communities thinking that university ikiwa kwa karibu na home, it belongs to them. Unajua? Because I've been following the story about Moi University and what happened, when the community and politicians interfered with its operations and management, and that's where they are. My fear is, Pipita, my fear is always one. Do you think these things repeat themselves? These things of politicians using people and things just going in the same vicious circle. I'm always scared. This usually happens and people never learn from history, because you remember very well when they chased away one of the VC, and that's where the problem started. And just yesterday, I don't want to name names, but the same people who were like the orchestrators for chasing the VC are the ones advising Moi University again. So me sometimes wonder, Vipita, ni short memory wa Kenya ukuwa nao ama ni nini? Unajua, or have Kenyans suffered enough? At the end of the day, mi hujiuliza, tumefinywa ya kutosha. Is everybody suffering enough? That is the only thing the presidency wanajiulizanga wakiwa huko, wakikunywa chai jioni. Wanasema watu hawajafinywa. Tax bado. I mean, that's what I think wanajiuliza. Like, watu lazima tuwafinye kidogo. They just keep pressing and pressing and pressing. Have we been pressed? Anybody who is in the space, lazima wajiulize. Wewe umefinywa enough? Ama bado unaona ukiwa the weak link, as I call the most of the middle class? Because you can still afford 3 meal, some breakfast, some, you can afford some school fees for private universities. You see, if you can still afford that and you feel like Kenyans are too much, then you are the weakest link. So I always leave the space by saying, if you cannot fix your own morality in your head and think for yourself, okay? Then please, there is no need of coming to space and lying. Just be realistic and avoid space, and wacha kupatia watu false hope. After 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the same things happen in the same communities over and over. Thank you so much, Pipita. It's always a pleasure. And the rest of the speakers, have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too have a great weekend ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great week. We started off on a fire note with America's space, and I was like, okay, we are not going to survive this week. But look at us. We are on Friday, 5 are you going to be coming out to the streets to make it known, or are you still okay? Next week, that is what we'll be talking about. But have a great weekend. Of course, as I always say, don't drink and drive. And of course, if you have something that is eating you, find somebody to talk to. One thing that I've learned is that a lot of people are going through a lot of things, and we lack the courage, sometimes the energy, sometimes the temerity to speak out to people about what we are really going through. Speak to people, and when someone speaks to you, listen. That is my thought for today. We have lost so many people to suicide. Suicide is a disease. Let us recognize that, and as when we recognize that, we will start working towards the cure. Home Run with PP is supported by you, the listener. If you like what I'm doing, 0721948229 is the number where you send in your support. And also, kama una kitu ya kuweka kwa tipja, you can go to our YouTube channel, HRWP, and hit that subscribe button. Wewe. Lakini kwa sasa mimi huyo nimemaliza siku yangu hapa hivi ndani. Asanteni sana kwa kila mtu ambaye ameleta submission yake. This is Home Run with PP. Don't drink and drive. Goodbye.
You are listening to Home Run with Pippi. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
I would love to look at this topic from a cultural point of view and even go a bit into the religious bit in terms of how women are viewed and the perspective around women leadership. So we've seen that historically, women have been placed in the background and their contributions and capabilities have been often overlooked by the leaders we have, including men. So when we look at cultural norms, men in our culture and from a historical perspective or aspect, men are supposed to provide, they're also supposed to protect and overall make decisions for their families. So when you look at our culture, we used to see men go to war and even go to, for example, hunt to bring food for their families, while women were left at home to look after children and even to look or take care of homes to make sure that the homes are safe. And mainly the nurturing was left for women, while the bigger decisions, I'm not saying nurturing is not a big role in the society, but the decisions that and the roles that we feel are major were left for men. And I need people to have in mind that old habits die hard, and we take time to restructure, to empower, and even to build up a different culture as opposed to what we are used historically. So I will use the example of where I come from. I am a Maasai. I come from the Ma community. So when you look at this particular community, it's patriarchal in that it's a male-dominated society whereby decisions are made by men and leadership primarily rests with the male gender. So technically, we have women looked at as not inferior per se, but women are not equal to men by any means, or have not been equal to men by any means historically. So that is one thing I'd love for us to understand and for us to look at it that way. And then number two, we have the issue of physique. So when you look at men are portrayed as strong, they're portrayed as courageous, and even the way their bodies are built, and even the voice of men is kind of domineering, and it's portrayed as, or the perspective is that men are leaders just by how they look, and you will be judged whether you're a good leader based on your physique, for example. And if you're that kind of person who is nurturing, transformative, and all sort of those things, you will probably be called a weak man in the society. So I am a firm believer of women will never be equal to men as long as or as much as physical appearance is considered. You look at things like hormones, you look at genes, you look at chromosomes and all the biology in the world, and all these differences will always be a limitation for women. But again, I dare say that women can think, they can strategize, and they can lead, and they can transform a society. Number three, I'd want to look at it from a religion perspective. So if you're a person who reads the Bible or a Christian, you will see that initially we don't get to see any form of dominance in the Bible. So it only says that God created man in his own image, both male and female. It doesn't say anyone was created more superior than any, and another person or another gender was created as inferior. It clearly points out inherent equality. And then it goes ahead to describe a woman as being created from the man's rib, as a helper, again, suitable for a man or suitable for him, as how the Bible puts it. And this does not, by all means, say anything on inferiority. It just brings out a supportive and complementary nature or role of the woman as God created her. And then you remember that the term helper in Hebrew was commonly referred to as Isa or Eze, depending on how you went, where you went to school. So this again is a term that has been used to describe God in the Hebrew culture, if I may call it that way. And now that you think of this as you think of this as God, then you get to see that a woman was not created in any inferiority complex or submission to man initially. But then we get to see dominion and men as leaders after the fall of man. So when God tells the woman, your desire will be for your husband, it's in Genesis somewhere, and he will rule over you. So then we get to see a shift in the relationship between a man and a woman, and it brings about the male dominance, whereby it becomes something in the form of punishment for distortion of the original equality that God meant for example, the woman and the man. So remember that I'm trying to bring out the issue of why women have always been leading from the backseat, but I do not want any of us to ignore the fact that we have seen women dare to dream, dare to be leaders, and we have seen a couple of them examples, many examples all over the world, and even here in Kenya, of women who have become leaders and who have refused to lead from the backseat. Because again, as I've said, women can think, they can strategize, and they can lead, and they can transform in any way. The same way men can think and strategize, women can equally do the same. So all of those factors, the three factors I've mentioned, in my view, have historically formed and written rules of women and leadership, where men have been seen to qualify more as leaders and women are left to follow behind. And it's deeply entrenched, in my view, in the minds of both women and men again, because when we were conversing with under the post that you made, Eli, something came up on even women not voting for women, and people have called it something in the lines of women sabotaging themselves. But my view is that these cultural norms and religion, everything else have made the male gender, to be more of leaders as compared to women, sorry. So a Gen Z in the current environment would say the game is already rigged for women. So I feel like, and my belief is that these three things compounded have made women lead from the backseat, and the issue of empowerment that has evolved over time is trying to nurture women and to show women that it is possible also to lead and to be heard, because originally no one was meant to domineer over another. We were meant to complement each other. We were meant to substitute the roles and create a wonderful world which works for all of us, both women and men. Thank you, Obed, Ila, and Mizani.
Thank you very much. Obed, go ahead. It's really me being a man here. Go ahead, Obed.
No, very well. I thought you had something to say before we introduce.
No, I don't have something to say. I must say something. That's the difference. But anyway, I don't want to belabor what Annalise Stella has said. I would love to maybe go to Hulda, but even as you pose your question, there's something she touches on, especially on culture. Remember, on the onset of this talk, we said it was very intentional, the speakers we brought on board. Annalise Stella talks about her Ma community. Hulda here, though she has been able to upgrade her software, now she has more polished American English accent. Truth of the matter is her homeland will never leave her. And there are things she must address, being a woman from a culture, a region that defines or sees women differently. I don't know if it's my own understanding, but Obed's probably, as you cue in Hulda, I would love to get the cultural connection she has with this topic. Obed.
Thank you, Ila. You can put the hand down now. It's destructive. Hulda, very wonderful to have an opportunity to be able to speak to you. And what I'd like in relation to what Ila has asked, I want you to look at is it culture? And in culture, I mean how people have viewed women and leadership before or up to now. And is it also a matter of religion? Because religion is also part of culture. And how does that impact the contribution of women in leadership? And how do you relate when you look at where you are today vis-a-vis your roots? How far are we from being able to make that connection and distance? Also factoring in that where you come from, we've never had a female elected to any position of responsibility. How do you bridge that?
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a lot there. I've just been chatting notes here because I definitely want to make sure that I address as much as I can and be respectful of time. And I definitely don't want to repeat what my amazing, incredible sister Stella has laid out. I think she has basically given us a framework of like what women in leadership, go through and the different aspects of like what we have to deal with, right? As a woman, and then another layer of that as being a Black woman. And then on top of that, being a Black woman in a culture that already doesn't like you because of what you look like. Really, there's a lot of layers that we need to address. But I wanna, stick to, what you guys are wanting me to stick to, and to talk about, just how my culture and where I come from, how that has impacted me, and you might be a little bit surprised as to, how I grew up and coming from that culture and how that culture was, has really played a key role in building my character. So for most of you who might not know my name or where I come from, I am a proud daughter of Kenyan immigrants, specifically, a daughter of Kenyan immigrants who come specifically from Nyame Nyamira. Once you get to Tombe tea factory there, and you just, continue forward about, 10, 15 minutes, you reach a very small village called Nyame Miso. And a lot of people are like, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. I don't think my ancestors ever dreamt that their great, God knows what grandchild would be, would go into a foreign land and occupy the political and leadership space. And so for me, when I look at women leadership, and I'll tie the culture piece into it as I finish my statement on this, especially from a Black woman in politics perspective, because again, Stella did an amazing job, giving us a base. And so I want to, narrow that base to my space and where I now have influence. it comes with really profound challenges, that tests resilience and determination at every single corner. Even a simple thing as, me going out here and presenting myself and having to over communicate, my very extensive qualification resume, right? And still, walking in a space where people don't even believe that. And the different challenges that we face, Black women, especially in the country of US, in leadership of often, we have to navigate unique intersection of biases, facing both gender and racial discrimination. Those biases being manifested as, stereotypes that, question our competency, diminish our contribution, or exclude us from critical spaces where decisions are made overall. Women in general, especially in the space of politics here in the US, there's data that was done, and it showed that you have to ask a woman at least 7 to 9 times to run for a political office. Literally have to ask her so many times to run. And that's because women do not, going back to that cultural context, women do not believe, that they belong in such roles or, have that, they don't see themselves in that space and believe that they also belong and deserve, that's the word, deserve to be there. But we do. And slowly but surely, a couple of strong names were put out there of incredible women who have paved a way for now some of us who are coming up. But I have to note that one of the most significant challenges is overcoming this deeply ingrained perceptions about what leadership should look like. Right? As a Black woman, we are often, held to a higher standards and must continuously prove our worth in ways that male or non-Black counterparts may have to. A good example is this. When I decided to run for office for, based on my why and why I wanted to jump into that space, I came into my community and I was like, hey, I want your blessing. To do this. Because again, going back to that cultural context, my white counterparts don't have to, quote, go to their community and ask for a blessing, right? And so I went out of there out of respect, out of tradition, out of culture, hoping that, yes, I will earn that blessing. But guess what, my friends? The first question I was asked, who gave you permission to run, right? So I'm sitting here in my head going, I don't need your permission to run. I need your blessing. There's a huge difference there. And so this consistent pressure to perform and excel and to meet that cultural and that double standards can definitely be something that, we continue to face as women, and especially Black women, and also access to resources, right? Is another hurdle. Especially in this political space, political structures and networks have historically been dominated by men. And that's not even in the US, that's also in Kenya, where you see, when a woman even shows any interest in stepping into this space, already they are being stamped down. They can't get access to these resources to run a successful campaign. So it makes it very hard for us Black women to secure not only the financial and institutional backing needed to run successful campaigns, but to also secure those networks and support systems that are needed. So building those networks requires, women to work twice as hard to earn the trust, the credibility, and the supporting environments that may not always value, our presence. And then I think about, the emotional toll of navigating a space where, a microaggression over racism, over outright hostility, can be a daily occurrences. I remember, my team and I being on the campaign trail and literally having police officers being called on my team and I because, quote, we didn't belong, in that community or in that neighborhood because of the color of our skin, and so building those networks and making sure that, Black women in politics don't have to continue to, shoulder the burden of representing not just ourselves, but also entire communities. So with these dual responsibilities, sometimes, it can be overwhelming. And as the stakes are really